Assalamu alaikum. So, my dear first year students, how are you? Hope that you are well. I'm also fine by the grace of Allah. So, dear students, I would like to discuss with you another important poem included in your syllabus. You are welcome to the lecture number 6. So, the title of this lecture today, Pike. I would like to deliver a lecture on the poem Pike. So, this is very much important poem for your coming exam. So let's start now. So, my dear students, here you can find that after this lesson, after this class, if you attentively listen to this lecture, inshallah, after this lecture, you will be able to understand the poem very easily and you will be able to make the answer of the following questions. So, these questions are very much important for your exam. So, question number one, that is comment on the use of imagery. That means what types of images does the poet use in this poem? Use of imagery, basic question. And another is that Pike is the poem about human violence. This question may be evaluate Pike as a poem about human violence and horror, or this question may be what types of elements of violence and horror do you find in this poem Pike? So these two questions are very much important. Basic question is imagery and there is critical appreciation here. So if you understand the poem, you can easily make the answer of critical appreciation. So dear students, I hope that after this lecture, you will be able to deliver these types of answer. And if you try, you can prepare the answer in your own way. If you try to learn how to prepare answer in your own way, you can learn. If you never try, if you only memorize, if you only memorize the sheets or the answers from the books, it will be very much harmful for you. So it is my advice to you that you listen to this lecture attentively and try to make the answer in your own way. So after the last portion of this lecture, in the last portion of this lecture, I will discuss with you how you can prepare the answer on the basis of the poem. So dear students, let's start now. So today, the topics our topics is the poem Pike. It was written by Ted Hughes. It is his birth and date time. And the poem Pike here you can find the picture, some picture here. Here is a small picture of a fish. This fish is called pike. It is the name of this fish is pike. So it's very small and it's middle size pike here you can find. And another one here is it's a large pike. It's a large pike, huge size. Its size is huge and big actually. So these are the subject matter of this poem. The subject matter of this poem is a fish. Ted Hughes takes the subject matter from a natural element. He takes the fish. So here you can find that the color of this fish is like tiger. There is green and green tigering in the color. So green and yellow. Here is a mixture, green and yellow. So it's like tiger like. So its color is not only like tiger, it is also ferocious like tiger. So my dear students, let's start the poem. It is the picture of Ted Hughes. It is a picture of Ted Hughes. So here you can find a brief discussion about Ted Hughes. His real name is Edward James Hughes. Was an English poet. He was an English poet. He is not only a poet, he is also a translator and also a children's writer. Mainly, he writes for children. Critics frequently rank him as one of the best poets of his generation, of his time, and one of the 20th century's greatest writers. He was appointed poet laureate in 1984 and held the office until his death. So, poet laureate, the poet from the part of the king, the poet who works for the king as a part of the office of the king, he is called poet laureate. So Edward Hughes also positioned the post poet laureate. So he's very much famous poet of his time. He's not only a poet, he is also a translator. So now I would like to give you some idea about this poem. So my dear students, here you can find that the Pike is a poem comprised of 11 stanza. As it is a large poem, so I'd like to give you some ideas before starting the poem. So the poem is comprised of 11 stanza. There are 11 stanza in this poem, and every stanza has 4 lines. The poem subject is the pike. The subject matter of this poem is the pike. What is pike? If there is a question that what is pike, then what is the answer? So the pike is a kind of fish that may grow very large with the increase of its age. After after the increasing of its age, the size also becomes big and large of this fish. It is a fish. It's a kind of fish. So it is a carnivorous species. What type of fish it is? It is a carnivorous species. You know, there are so many carnivorous species in this world. Tiger is one of them, lion is one of them. And these carnivorous species hunts other animals, other species in the atmosphere. And by hunting, they lead their life. So in this way, this fish, pike, also a carnivorous species that hunts other fishes for its food. So the poem shows the violence and horror involved in the struggle for survival. You know, in this world, the human beings or any creature in nature, they struggle very much. Why they struggle? To survive themselves, to survive itself. So in this poem, we find that the poet shows the violence and horror involved in the struggle for survival. Whenever the human beings or any creature struggle to survive themselves, that is, they create a situation of violence and horror in their surrounding atmosphere. So this also that is one of the most important theme of this poem, you know. So we may divide the poem into 3 parts for your better understanding. I would like to divide the poem into 3 parts. So dear students, here in part 1, the part 1 may be stanza 1 to 4. In the stanza 1 to 4, that means part 1 of this poem, the poet admirations and description of the pike. We find the poet's admiration and description of the pike. In the first 4 stanza, we will find that the poet give a description, a clear description on pike, about pike, and he admire pike. He admires the color, the size, the shape, the dwelling place of the pike. So in the first 4 stanza, we are given some ideas about pike size, color, about the pike description. And then part 2, in the part 2, we will find that poet's experience with pike. This part 2 contains with stanza 5 to 7. So in this 5 to 7 stanza, in this part, poet's experience with pike. Here, poet achieves, gather some experience, he gathers some universal thoughts, universal ideas through some experiments with pikes. So next we will discuss about the experience of pike of the poet. So then part 3. So in the part 3 contains 8 to 11, stanza number 8 to 11. And part 3 we will find poet's fishing experience in the pond. In this section we will find the poet with his fishing line starts fishing, and whenever he was in fishing condition, he gathers some experience from pike. So in this way, through this poem, we find at first the description about pike, and then the poet's experience. Here he gives some philosophy of life, philosophy of human life, and also in the last part we will find some other experience on this pike, on this fish. So dear students, now I'd like to give a brief description about the themes of the poem, themes in Pike. What are the main themes of this poem? So it will be beneficial for you to understand the poem. So here, the students, you can find that one of the most important theme of this poem is beauty and brutality of nature. You know, nature is very much important. Nature is very much important. There are so many beautiful elements in nature, and at the same time, these beautiful elements also contains the brutality of nature. So in nature, in natural elements, we find two types of element: beauty and also brutality. Not beauty present in nature, brutality also present in nature. So it is present in external nature and also in human nature, and also in every creature of in this world. So this is one of the most important theme of this poem: beauty and brutality. So another is inborn instincts. So you know, this is an universal truth. Every human being in this world, every natural creation in this world has inborn instincts, some inborn weakness or goodness. That means inborn quality, the quality that he or she or it receives by born. So the quality that received by born, it is called inborn instinct. So this is also a theme. The pike, you will find in the poem that the pike by born receives horrifying situation in itself, ferocious elements in itself. So the most important and the main theme of this poem, the most important and the main theme of this poem is survival of the fittest. This is the main theme. If there is question that what is the theme of this poem, so we can write a brief answer that the survival of the fittest is the main theme of this poem. So in this poem we will find that the pike struggles, the pike hunts other pike to survive, to survive. And in this world, there is a philosophy here. In this world, who can survive? The thing or the person who is the fittest, he can survive. If you are the fittest, if you can fit, if you can be fitted with the situation, with the surroundings atmosphere, then you can survive. Otherwise, you will be eliminated. You will be deprived from this world. So in this way, this is most philosophical and universal truth, and also it is the main theme of this poem, that survival of the fittest. So everyone in this world struggles to survive, and the person, the things, who is the fit, who is the fittest, he can survive only. So another important is that violence and cruelty in animal world. So in animal world, we find violence and cruelty. So it is not only found in animal world, it is also can be found in human world, human life also. Violence, we will find the presence of violence and horror and cruelty in in this poem, in the nature of pike, and also in surrounding nature. So these are the themes, dear students, these are the themes, main themes of this poem. So whenever we will read the poem, we will find the idea of beauty and brutality in nature of everything. And also we find some inborn weakness or inborn instincts, and also survival of the fittest, that everyone struggle to survive themselves in this world. And also we find the violence and cruelty, and also violence and horror, horrific elements, the elements who indicates violence and horror. These are also can be found in this poem. So these are the main theme of this poem. So dear students, now I'd like to discuss in brief about the poem. So here you can find the poem Pike. So this is the title Pike, the poem. The line, first line, pike 3 inches long, perfect pike in all parts, a green tiger in the gold, killers from the egg, the malevolent azure green, they dance on the surface among the flies, or mope, stunned by their own grandeur, over the bed of emerald shallot, of submarine delicacy and horror, 100 feet long in their world. Very nice, fantastic line here. My dear students, you can find here that pike 3 inches long. At first, the poet says the pike, very small pike, 3 inches long, but though it is 3 inches in size, it is perfect pike in all parts. That means from the very beginning, From the very beginning, the pike looks like perfect fish. It is completely perfect. So its color green tigering the gold, killers from the egg. This phrase is very much important. Killers from the egg. This line contains the inborn weakness and inborn instincts. What are the inborn? The things that human beings or any creature by born receives. So the pike receives a quality that though they are the killers from their egg, from the very beginning they are the killer. They are very much ferocious. They are horrible from the very beginning. That means they receive it by born. It is instinct in their characteristics. So the malevolent is green. They dance on the surface among the flies or moved. In these lines you can find the description about the pike. In the stanza 1 to 4, we will given the description about the pike, description about the pike only, how pike dwells, what is its color. So these are the lines, or mob stand by their grandeur over the bed of emerald where the pike living. This is the description of living place of the pike, where they lives and how they lead their lives. And it seems that they're like submarine delicacy, and there is horror. And 100 feet long in the world, it seems, though they're the 3 inches long, but whenever they moves in water, it seems that 100 feet long in the world. It is here we find the imagery. So these are the lines. So in the first three stanza, in the first four stanza, you are given the idea about the pike. So in ponds under the heat struck lily pads, this is the description of the place where they live, where pike lives. In ponds under the heat struck lily pads, they live in a place where heat struck under lily pads. Gloom of the stillness, locked on last year's black leaves. There are so many black leaves and last year's leaves. Watching upwards or hung in an ember cavern of wits. These are the place where they dwells. In this picture, you can find this is the place. This is the place. This is the narration of this line here. They are the leaves in this place, in these types of areas. So and then here we can find the structure of the pike. Here the poet gives the description about the jaws. The jaws hooked, clamp, and fangs, not to be changed at this date. A life subdued to its instrument. The gills knitting quietly, and the pectorals. So in this way, in the first four lines, first two lines, and here the first two lines, second, third, and fourth stanza. In the first four stanza, the poet describes about the pikes. So in these lines, here you can find that there are you can then part 2 starts. Stanza 5 and 5 to 7. Here the poet experience. Here we will find that the poet gather some experience. The poet will gather some experience. So here you find that the poet says, three we kept behind glass, jungle in weight 3 inches, 4 and 4.5 feet fry to them. Suddenly there were two, finally one. So the students here, you can find the poet gives some experience. So it seems to us that by this line, it seems to us that one day the poet with one of his friends, maybe he used the word here we, kept three pike. He kept three pike in a glass. He kept three pike in a glass. So three pike has three different shapes. So one is 3 inches, another is 4, and another is 4.5 inches. So he kept this three pike in a glass, and finally he one day he suddenly there were two. Suddenly one day he find that there is only two here. He kept three pikes in a glass, in a jar, but suddenly one day he noticed that there are two. So finally, at first, one is missing from this glass or from this jar, and he says finally one, and he discovered that finally there is one pike. So two are missing now. So from this experience, from these experiments, the poet achieves a experience. Who is survived here? Who is survived? The large one. He here says that with the sack belly, and the green it was born with the sack belly, huge belly. The belly size is huge. The survival. Who is survived? Its belly size is very huge. Is very large. So as the belly is very much large, so it proves that this pike who is survived now, it eaten another two pikes. It eaten another two pikes. So in this way, here the poet gives a philosophical idea. The poet gives a symbolic idea, symbolic meaning here that. So here we can find the pike is a type of fish who take another fish as its food. So in the same way, in the human beings, in the human society, there are so many human beings in this world. There are so many peoples in this world who also harms other people like the pike, who also makes hamper to the other people for their own betterment, for their own benefit, for their own betterment. So in this way, there are so many heinous, there are so many horrible people in this world who also harms other people for their betterment, for their own need. So in this way, here we find poet's experience from an experiment. So the line then in this stanza, we will find that he says, and indeed they spare nobody to 6 pounds each, over 2 foot long, high and dry in the willow harp. So here he gives another experiment. So one day the poet noticed that there are two pike, one is 6 pound, two are each 6 pounds. Towards everyone is in size is 6 pounds and size is 2 foot long. That means it's middle types of middle class, middle size in middle types of pike. So these two high and dry. It indicates that they are dry. Whenever they dry, at the time when they died, by dying they can dry. In the willow harps, it is a willow harp. It is a branches of wood maybe. So in this experience, the poet tries to say that one day he noticed two pike. The one jumped past its gills down the other's gullet. This line says, one jumped past its gill down the other's gullet. The outside eye started as a vice looks. The same iron in his eyes. That means his eyes become iron. This line indicates their diet. Though its film shark in death. Though its film shark in death. These lines says that says that that means two pike. My dear students, listen to me. Two pike. The size of this two pike is 2 feet long and 6 pound, and they are in this way. One catches the mouth of another in this way. In this way, it seems to us that they're in quarreling, and one bites other, and by this biting, in this position, they becomes dead, and now they are dry. That means after dying, they becomes dry for the sunlight. So though they becomes die, but they never spare one another. Never spare one another. So in this way, there are so many people in this world who are in quarreling, who are in dangerous situation. Though they are in the mouth of death, but nobody spare another. Nobody give relief another. So in this way, This is also symbolical here. So this is the nature of the pike. Even they becomes dead, they never spare others. So this is also we can find in nature of human beings. So these are the experiments. Here we find two experience. One is the pike hunts another pike. The poet experience. From his experiments, he keeps three pike in a glass. The pikes are very much ferocious and they are carnivorous species. And another, no one spare other, no one give relief other, though they becomes dead, but they never relief other. So in the last part, in the last part, last section of the poem, you find the poet gives his experience of fishing time. Here he says, "A pond I fished 50 years across, whose lilies and mussels and muscular tents had outlast over visible stone of the monastery had planted them." These are the expression of the lines. Still legendary depth, it was as deep as England. That means here he gives the description of the pond. The pond is very much ancient. It is stated from very much ancient times, like the time of England. Here he gives the description of the pond. So in the last two stanzas is very much important here. Last two lines are very much important. So for your recollecting, in the part three, stanza 8 to 11, the poet fishing experience in the pond in the pond. So here the poet says the last stanza is very much important. Owls hushing the floating woods, trail on my ear against the dream, darkness beneath night's darkness had freed, that rose slowly towards me, watching. So these two lines are very much important, my dear students. These two lines are very much important, Here he shows the violence and horror that prevails in nature. Here he gives the image. Here he says the darkness beneath night's darkness. That means a thick darkness had freed. A darkness becomes free from from nature. And by freeing the darkness, the evil of darkness, freeing from nature, rose slowly towards me. It was coming towards me, the poet sings. Whenever the poet was fishing in the evening, in the very evening in the pond, in this stanza, he says that at the evening, the poet is in fishing position in the pond, and at that time he noticed some huge spike in the water. And in the water, there are so many huge, large spikes, a horrifying and horrible fish in the water. In the same way, like the pike, there are so many horrible elements. There are so many violence in also external nature. So he imagines that he thinks that the darkness, the evil of darkness, like the pike, huge pike, it also becomes free. Here we can find personification, and that rose slowly towards me, watching, and he becomes frightened with this situation. So this last two line gives an atmosphere of horrifying and terrible atmosphere. So my dear students, now I'd like to give you some idea, the clue about answers. So comment on the use of imagery. This was the first question. You know, you know, at first I said that the basic question of this poem is comment on the use of imagery. So now I would like to give you the description of this question. Here you can find the answer of imagery. You can take the help from here. So comment on the use of imagery. So my dear students, how you can prepare the answer in your own way. So at first you will give some idea, you will give some introductory sentences. So you know what is image. Image means picture of words. The poet creates the picture by words, and so many images gives a complete idea, a complete picture. This complete picture is called imagery. So at first you will give some idea that Ted Hughes is one of the most important poet of animal imagery. Mainly Ted Hughes writes about animal images, animal imagery. So by using animal imagery, he highlights the violence and horrific elements in human nature. So in this poem, we are also find so many use of images, and these images gives a complete shape, complete picture about pike. So here the poet is very much successful, very nicely uses imagery. So now I would like to discuss the poem. I would like to discuss the poem on the light of imagery. So now then after introductory sentences, you can write here in this way. The Ted Hughes utilized effective diction and sinister imagery in the poem Pike to create an atmosphere of terror and awe. From the onset of the first stanza, we find Hughes draws the picture of Pike by creating a fantastic image. So from the very beginning, from the first stanza, we can find images. So in this way, you can quote, and after the quoting, you can explain. So then you can say that in this line we can find the imagery of green triggering the gold. This is image. This image creates a picture, and this image shows in our inner eyes the picture of a tiger. Suggests the horrifying elements in the pike. So the poet tries to show the resemblance to terror's colors and predatory nature. So tiger is a predatory bird, and a predatory animal. So in the same way, pike is also a predatory fish. Then the poet portrays the pike as a killer from the egg. Again, his diction reinforces his idea of the pike as a predator from birth, and following this image, Hughes focuses on the older pike, the proven, seasoned hunter with its malevolent agent green. So these lines and he uses carefully chosen imagery, construct a respectful and extremely cautious fear of the pike. So goes into more detail of the physical aspects of the pike. In the second stanza, there is answer, second, fourth, and third stanza, which intensify the fearful aura surrounding the fish. Huge poems praises the pike for its ferocity, but the speaker clearly fears the danger the fish represents. So in this way, you can explain the poems. You can explain the poems that here we find the elements of imagery. So you can find here I only shows the first stanza and the last stanza, and from the middle you will try taking help from your book. So in the last stanza you can find that perhaps the most terrifying imagery that is used to present the pike is in the final stanza, where the poet himself goes fishing, describing how his hair is frozen on my head. What is horrifying elements? Frozen on my head, his hair. At the thought of what he might come across, the final line of the poem imagines the pike watching the human as an invader in his territory, and presents the pike as a menacing, violent, and deadly entity that is not deterred even by the strength of humans. So in this way, the last here I use the quote of the last stanza. So in this way, you can find here. So the poet uses the imagery. So dear students, I only show first and last stanza how the poet use imagery. From the middle, you will prepare in yourself, taking the help from your book. So then there is another answer. It is complete answer. You have no activities here. Only you answer this. It is complete answer. So the one is the most important question is that the poem is about human violence and horror. So here you can find this is the complete answer. So in Pike Hughes explores the primordial instinct of violence and horror in animals, both human and beast. The poem is in fact a symbolic study of violence embedded in human nature. So what types of violence or horror prevails in human nature? This is symbolically present in this poem. So pike is a fish that lives on other fishes. It lives on other fishes. Very much important. So in the poem, pikes cross the boundary of animal world, of overshadow the human nature, and a sensitive reader is bound to find similarity between the two species. So in this way, you can take help. This is the complete answer. You can take help here, and also you can take the help from your book. Throughout the 11th stanza on complete stanza, you can find here. You will read it in your home, make prepare a note in your own way. So then the remaining answer, the first thing that identifies the pike, especially with the human beings, is their lifestyle. They lead a life subdued to its instrument. Pike have sharp teeth and they use it at random. So you can read here. It is very easy. So then, for another quality of the pike remain as violent human nature, that is their merciless hunger for authority. In the poem, the speaker says, three pikes. This is an example. Birds experiments. Three pikes, one is missing. So here is a horrifying and violence element that we noticed here. This is also very much important. So, but most of all, we find human trait of pikes from its destructive nature. Here also find with destructive nature. Another example here. You can find the one kills another. So these, from this you can take the help for complete answer. So here is another slide. Thus we see that most of the actions and traits of the pike resembles human nature. So in this way you can take the help of these slides. So you can prepare answer in. So this is the final stanza. And in conclusion, you can give idea in your own way. So, my dear students, here is an important matter: the sources. These are the sources, and these are the link from Google. You can search here, and also I take the help from your book Introduction to Poetry, Volume 1. So, in this from this book, you will read the broad questions. At first, read the broad questions, brief questions, and short questions. And whenever you read the answers of all the questions, you will achieve a quality of knowledge. You will gather some knowledge, and then by using this knowledge, you can prepare answer in your own way. So, dear students, never memorize without understanding. At first, you understand what you are memorizing. At first, you understand what you are memorizing. By never understanding, without understanding, you never memorize anything. You try to make answer in your own way. Inshallah, you can. So, from this poem, two questions are very much important. One is imagery, another is theme of violence and horror. So these two questions is very much important for your exam, my dear students. So thank you very much. So in the next class, we will discuss about another elements, another poem, inshallah. So thank you very much.